Today I turned 25, so it's time to talk about my favorite movie from every year I've been alive. Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Homebase Cinema. Let me know in the comments below your favorite movie from every year you've been alive. And in this list, I haven't watched a ton of movies from certain years of movies. And so there's certain default movies where even though I enjoy it, it's not necessarily meant to be a masterpiece. And also this list is subjective to my personal opinions and what I think is just my pure favorite, even if it's just based around nostalgia. So we're going with that. And coming in 1999, we have The Sixth Sense, a thriller from M. Night Shyamalan I've only seen once, yet it still stands out in my mind that has an excellent plot twist that I will not spoil, and it has just great dynamics with its characters. The mystery and thrill throughout always builds up the suspense of what's going on, and there's a natural story between Bruce Willis, how he's acting with the child actually works out. Having an actual chronological storyline where certain things are happening and you're wondering how this husband is trying to reconnect with his wife when the wife's sort of ignoring him once certain things are happening, when it all has a great revelation, a great payoff based on things that should be obvious, and yet for some reason everyone often gets fooled by how everything plays out, yet still holds up to the standards of its own time, how you're really loving and enjoying each and every moment that M. Night Shyamalan has to bring to the table. And coming at 2000, we have Requiem for a Dream, one that's really psychotic, and Darren Aronofsky is just great as a director. There's trippy moments and scenes that makes this a hard and difficult watch. I've only seen it once, and it's hard to know when I'll revisit it again, yet I still remember and love each of the technical aspects, what makes it a great film by its technical objective standards, how certain scenes flow out, and a high drunkenness that you can get feeling watching this film, just being so trippy in each and every way of how it studies all these characters and the alcoholism and just the sadness that you can get, while also feeling such a blend of emotion all the way through. Such a great visual effect from everything that they have, from the technical aspects to the visual storytelling that this pulls off the rim through. And coming out 2001, we have Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, one that is just an excellent, one of the best beginnings to a trilogy of the great fantasy story that Lord of the Rings is, and how they build up the story, the natural progression of the characters. It's a 3-hour feast that is well deserving of its runtime, has great progression, great action, and great character building that intermixes religion and ideas throughout, while not enforcing everything, while building these orcs or all of these fantasy creatures that really wants you to submerge yourself into this world, into the world building that builds upon the culture that you're getting yourself into, while also really intermixing yourself into the lives of all of these characters. And coming in another 2002, we have Punch Drunk Love, one that is Adam Sandler's best, a great drama for its own means. Paul Thomas Anderson having a great directorial effort with this one, just having an untraditional romance tale that's more of a romance drama, and it goes into an interesting dynamic with the pudding cups. If you know, you know what you're getting into, what this has to measure, and it's so different for this guy, especially cannot be made today because it's about trying to find a date on the phone line, and just how they go about this tale, the depression that you sort of see within some of these characters' lives, and the paleness to how you're living as a single versus trying to find the love of your life. It's just an interesting way of exploring this as a romance drama as a whole. And coming in 2003, we have Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. Yes, a finale that super stands what the introduction brought up to this film as a whole. Just having the great payoff, the great dynamics of these characters that builds up from the beginning and yet stands still on its own for the great work that Peter Jackson brings to the directorial debut and ideas that just explore such great efforts to the craft that is put into this film, the scenery and the sets that really creates great battles, immerses you into this world once again as the end of the trilogy, creating great iconic lines, great moments, and immersing you into the emotions that really has the payoff of a lifetime. And coming in 2004, we have Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Yes, possibly my favorite of the Harry Potter franchise, just because of the time travel element they have intermixed within, and just generally, this is the combination of the lovely funness of the youthful child of Harry Potter and the other kids, while also integrating the darkness of how they're growing up as you grow up with the audience. I've read all the books as a kid, and so it was a perfect time getting into once I was almost done reading all the books. And generally, this story is prolific, and I love just what you get out of it, the progression, the pacing. So much pays off what you're getting and the darkness and the twist that you have along the way. Yes, there's a few technical flaws, what you get with the writing, the Murata's map, and everything that goes along with that, but the characters as a whole sucks me into this fantasy world, makes me want to live there, makes me want to love the culture as a whole, making it just one of my favorites of this year. 2005, we have Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, one that again is another fantasy world that I want to go into, and the imagination that goes about through the child, intermixing the idea of religion and spirituality, faith, and ideas that are great for the ways that they pull this film off, and just the exploration to all these characters, all these creatures, and intermixing them into this world creates a fantasy world that I love to explore, and this one in particular is definitely the best and my favorite of the Narnia films as a whole, just creating such great imagination, great world building and setting, while also panning over a couple of years just going into there, while also having time not really pass at all once you're into that world, and having a great battles that has a great mix, great deception as you're getting all of these different sides that you can team up with. And 2006, we have Saw 3. Yes, it's one that I still enjoy as a guilty pleasure, and yet it still sustains its own nature of being gory, of being a great horror film in some means. And I just enjoy the franchise as a whole, how crazy it can get, trying to connect the lines between each and every film, while it creates some contrivances and breaks some consistency within the franchise. I still enjoy just the matter that you get, seeing the payoff as it goes about, having just a fun time with the gore, how things pull off, and getting all these different characters that aren't necessarily great by an objective standpoint, but by a fun, wild ride that you get. The editing is a trippy mess that I still enjoy watching again and again. And coming in 2007, we have Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix. Yes, this is not the last Harry Potter film you'll see on this list, but I just generally enjoy what you get in this fifth film, the fifth story to the franchise, and just what you're getting as the build up to the final battle progresses. You're getting such great training from Harry Potter and Hermione, all maturing up and getting the darkness elements that are progressing more and more, and just the fantasy world, of course, continues to be that much better, and you're getting so much more elements that integrate into the psychology of this story that makes it still compelling, and one that I just love to watch as it stands. And coming in 2008, we have The Dark Knight, one that I love from Christopher Nolan, creating one of the best Batman films of all time. Just Heath Ledger, Christian Bale, how you're getting their performances, just being the best for what their characters represent, and not to mention Aaron Eckhart as Harvey Dent or Two-Face is just really great how you're getting that character intermixed within the role, and Commissioner Gordon as well. I just love all the characters, all that it has to explore with its themes, with the city and the final encounter, what you have to do, Joker trying to prove a point, while also the city having this divide, having to make the choice between killing all the prisoners and killing all the citizens after they're trapped on these two different boats, and what they all have to integrate with the fights throughout the story, the themes that are integrated within, and just the overall action shabam that you have to go with is just all through and through an entertaining action piece. And coming in 2009, we have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, once again progressing the story in a dark tone, creating this great dynamic, having some emotional tolls as the darker tone builds up with a death that I will not spoil once you're getting into the end, that you're just really progressing, really building upon these characters as a whole, still through and through, and I just enjoy the nature of this Harry Potter franchise, as I talk about again and again. Once you really love all of these characters, the building of this story, and what progresses throughout is still just super superficial, and one that I love to revisit as a franchise. And coming in 2010, we have Inception, one that's supernatural and great for its intermixing of all of these different sci-fi elements that deals with dreams in superficial ways, one that really sustains its test of time and creates an original story that goes and builds up all these different questions, goes on this strong cliffhanger that leaves you questioning what the ending really is all about, creating a great line of development that I just really enjoy as a whole, what it leaves as a question, while also integrating some great elements for how it builds up its story. And coming in 2011, we have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Yes, the last Harry Potter film on this list, and yes, the final Harry Potter in the franchise that really gives off the shebang, possibly my second favorite of the franchise, that really sustains itself in its test of time, the darkest, and building upon this franchise as a whole, creating the final battle between Harry Potter and the one that should not be named, and creating a great Battle of Hogwarts scene, and having a long runtime that still deserves everything that it needs to. Going off of part 1, this is just so incredible for all the work, the action that pays off from everything you built up from this franchise, from this lighthearted, childish behavior to growing up with these characters all the way to the end, that creates something that's super special and has a great payoff that not only has the nostalgia from having read the books, having watched the movies when they came out, but having rewatched them 10 years later, creating such a great environment that I love to immerse myself in as I talk about now and again, and just being able to get the payoff that really sustains the test of time for when it was released. My favorite for 2012 is The Dark Knight Rises, one that, while it does have its flaws, I just enjoy the nature of the action, the finale to this trilogy for The Dark Knight, and just enjoying the nature of Bane versus The Dark Knight, having Christian Bale once again versus Tom Hardy, what they have through the antics that has through this. It may be not the best movie, but it has all the action that actually clicks with me, the drama that draws me in, and ultimately has a great finale, the long extended period of time that they have a skip over period where Bane actually has a winning side to what he has with his plan, and the uprising for Batman, how they draw into inspirational moments is just really compelling, has the right music notes. Hans Zimmer, of course, pulling in all the punches for what this film has to bring, and Bane just being strong as he can be. What they have for this story, while it could be much better as the story progresses, it has a great finale where the city is taking over, fighting back, that ultimately has a great payoff at the end. And coming in 2013, we have Prisoners, one that's so integrated into Denis Villeneuve's filmography, one that I absolutely love for the nature of what it goes over, that's disturbing, has psychological tormenting moments, and Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal have great performances, one as the father that's lost these two girls from this kidnapping, and Jake Gyllenhaal playing a detective that is trying to find the two girls, that's trying to solve all these different cases as he has never failed a case previously. And so the torment that goes as the days progress further and farther away from the kidnapping, wondering what's going on, how to solve the mystery, and all these different gruesome moments that happens along the way, that's psychologically and physically amazed, that explores these metaphorical themes, that is just so integrated in a way that I just absolutely love through and through as a whole. And coming in 2014, we have Whiplash, one that goes over this excellent exploration of music. Damien Chazelle being an excellent director for this film, having Miles Teller give an excellent performance, J.K. Simmons as a demanding band director, and just what they have to go through, the tormentation that actually happens on screen is psychologically unnerving, and just the progression as this person is trying to get better and better on the drums and is pushed further than his limits in an unhealthy way of being passionate about something in a way that shouldn't be done too hard. It should go in so many different ways that's so compelling and unnerving, yet so entertaining because it's an excellent thriller all the way through. And coming in 2015, we have Kingsman: The Secret Service, an excellent action service piece that I just love for the nature, the British comedy, the action that pulls the punches all in the right notes, having some great ways of directing the film, great camera movements that really flow and act with the motions as involved, and what they have through the psychological world that they build with this secret world. You're building all these different techniques and these spy service tactics that really builds up the tension. Ended up being something that I was not expecting, action-packed more than I was really hoping for, and really pulls in all these different punches that really integrates the story into the world that it builds itself in. In 2016, we have Hunt for the Wilderpeople, Taika Waititi's underrated film, just for being way overlooked as a great comedy, as a great comfort film. I just really enjoy the exploration of these characters, just an uncle that's just not all for the kid, and what happens when something really tragic happens within their lives, and having to raise this foster kid, all the protection that has to go as they're going on the run, and having to go through this exploration through the woods and exploring different things. It's a fantastical adventure that goes on all these different antics, that it doesn't have high stakes, but it goes on a nice mannered route that has the lovely comedy, the lovely growing of age type of film that is just warm to the touch, and I just enjoy watching it now and time again. And coming in 2017, we have Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Yes, one that is so important to my life. The reason I am talking about movies today, the reason I got into watching movies consistently in the first place, and one that I just enjoy for the antics, what everyone often doesn't like with it, what everyone doesn't connect with it, connects with me in all the right ways. What they do with Luke's character, how they study the psychology of all these characters. While some don't necessarily connect with the writing, there's something about the writing that hits all the right notes, hits all the right keys for what I love about Star Wars, about sci-fi, and about movies as a whole. What has led me to get into watching movies, and I just enjoy all these characters, Rey's growth into becoming independent, not having to rely on her parents, not always getting the right answers that you're expecting this Star Wars movie to go into. And that's why I love what Rian Johnson has brought to this film. It's a complete subversion to what you expect to come out of this film. And while it's very, very unfortunate that it has split the fandom as people hate the franchise, or what Disney has brought to it at least, it is something that really has connected with me to this day. And while it does have its contrivances and flaws that I've noticed time and time again, it still hits all the right notes. It is gut-wrenching by the ending and definitely the final act. But it's still just that comfort movie that I just enjoy to watch from the very beginning, as a fan from day one. And coming in 2018, we have Hereditary. Now, this is another discomforting movie from Ari Aster, being a debut that excels beyond imagination. What they have, it is very simple, and it's my introduction to A24 as the studio is. And what they have through these performances, Toni Collette and everyone else, just is a simple family life that goes into demonic possessions in ways that I would not expect, builds its progressions, builds its thrill in ways that's the most unnerving horror film that I've really experienced, and how they explored this world that's simple-natured, but it goes beyond the imagination of what you go into the supernatural realm. Is really creepy and disturbing. It has a couple of flaws maybe here and there, but still works and hits all the right notes that is discomforting, as it is technologically something that works well for me. And before we get into the remaining years, make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and join in the discussion down in the comments below, commenting your favorite movie from every year you've been alive, so we can have a nice discussion for the love of cinema, talking about our differences, because we come from different decades, different years, and different backgrounds that has built up a reason we all have different choices for what we connect with in our favorite realm. In 2019, we have Joker, one that is so dark and is satirical in the way it explores this political realm, and it's just something very different and R-rated for the superhero genre. What they do with Joker's character is very different than what we got before. It's an origin story of sorts. That's not meant to be the definitive origin story, but it's still great for what they explore with Arthur Fleck and his backstory of being almost mocked at for being this clown, for having to grow on his own wages, taking care of his mother, and being laughed at all the time because he doesn't always have the greatest sense of humor what they're doing, and when he wants to become a comedian. And it's something where you get sympathetic with his character because he's depressed and wanting to achieve different things, but you also are drawn back by not wanting to cheer for his success because you know his outcome, you know where he's becoming as a villain, as this Joker character that is just has this split and creates this unnerving sort of vibe from the whole general movie as a whole, creating all these great dynamics that Todd Phillips as a director brings excellently to the film. And Joaquin Phoenix as the performer, as Joker, is something that's really good, that as we're getting a part 2 later this year, will be very interesting to be seen as a musical. In 2020, we have Ordinary Love, one that's very overlooked, very underrated for what it's been, having Liam Neeson and Leslie Manville in this simple, down-to-earth thing about this wife that gets breast cancer, how they deal with it as husband and wife, the different split dynamics, the different very simple and melancholic drama that you get, and just a progression as it takes over a year, and what you have to go through, different depression and different dynamics between the sadness, the light-hearted moments, and just exploring life in such a different way, in such an interesting and way that fashions. And even though I'm not personally connected with anyone that I've lost to cancer or in having cancer in general, if for whatever reason it hits all the right notes that brings down to what my taste is all about when it comes down to the simple, grounded story that explores humanity in the most lighthearted, even grieving matters, that explores something that's very intriguing by the nature of something that's very different, has great cinematography with the colors that really pop, and of course it has Liam Neeson. I'm a big Liam Neeson action guy, but as a whole, bringing this into a recent era of his career that's not action and more drama-based centers it in a more realistic, more something to be taken seriously from him that I still really connect with to this day. In 2021, we have Dune. Yes, of course, I'm a huge Dune fan, having read the first book at the very least as of now, and I just really enjoy it for the sci-fi nature, the exploration of all of these different paths of Dune, and just what you're doing with the Chosen One pathology, and being the first one, the inspiration for many Chosen One ideas to come, and just what they do. Denis Villeneuve bringing in excellent work, creating an excellent picture, Hans Zimmer bringing an excellent score, and having all this all-started cast, and having great dynamics between the factions of the different groups, the culture that is integrated within all of these different factions and these different realms, what they do to build up the planet, to make the planet its own character, create different threats such as the Sandworm, and also the Harkonnens, where there's certain things you don't know. This is only the part one of what is to come, and yet stands well on its own, becoming something that's great because of how well Frank Herbert, as the author to the book, it has studied so much in preparation for writing this book, and it translates so well as a childhood dream that Denis Villeneuve brings onto the big screen, or even at home, still stands the test of time and really integrates everything that the book has, even in its own interpretation, becomes something that's so immersive by everything, by all the right notes that it has to have coming for it. And in 2022, we have Close, one I wasn't particularly known about until a few months back, and one that really works wonders for how you're exploring grief in just this friendship where these two boys have an intimate relationship where they're not really loving each other necessarily, but they just are really close, and people mock them and are really because of how close they are together, and something tragic happens to where there's grief that is explored in such an intimate way that hits hard because all the punches it has to pull, and integrates these different pathologies of psychology that is very integrated and very compelling to the nature of what I love within film. And it is gorgeous by its cinematography. It is slow paced, and even some of the latter path is a little bit slower than it starts with, but it still integrates that nice motion of human emotion of what you're getting from these characters that is very simple, down to earth, like I mentioned before, that I love within film, and very much something that you can really attach to the characters, something that I love by the emotions that are involved. In 2023, we have Beau is Afraid, one that you may not expect to find among the favorites of 2023, but for me, loving Ari Aster's work, whether it be Midsommar, Hereditary, as I mentioned previously on this list, Beau is Afraid is something that is so interesting because it is a unprecedented study of schizophrenia, a man that's afraid of everything, and Joaquin Phoenix performing so excellently within these roles, having these fun side characters, these actors, and just having some great dynamics that's so weird and unadventurous, but it is very unique for its own standard. What they have to do with the story that is almost about nothing, and yet because of the schizophrenia type of dynamic that has to bring with it, it goes on this wild ride that becomes intriguing, mythologically speaking, and what they do with all the metaphors, these different things that I don't entirely understand, but I love the mystery behind, is just something that really draws me in. The 3-hour runtime that still works all wonders from beginning to end, just enjoying the weird nature that Ari Aster has to bring once again for this film. But that leaves at 2024 thus far, as of April. We have Dune Part 2, one, yes, that concludes the Dune saga, at least for the book that we have as of now, that really brings about yet another final chapter to what Denis Villeneuve has to bring to his childhood imagination from the well-written book that creates all these different cultures, all these pathologies, what Paul Atreides has to do, knowing he's sort of called to be the chosen one, and his choices that are untraditional to the route you expect him to take, or something that's not necessarily looking at him as the hero you expect him to be, because there are certain choices where he's not being the human you want him to be as the main protagonist or the hero of the story, because he's trying to avoid these responsibilities in one sense. And as you get onto later books, you see what is the side effect of that, and what all of these religious prophecies you get with these people following him and the unbelievers of if he's the Muad'Dib, and just the integration of all these different all-star casts, the fights that integrated within, and the visual stunningness that integrates itself within. Once again, the great soundtrack is so stellar to this day that really works wonders, that made me watch it again in theaters, and I cannot wait to see it once again. Once I get it on Blu-ray or 4K, whatnot, I just enjoy everything this has to bring, making it my favorite film of all time thus far of 2024. So that's all of my favorite films from every year I've been alive. Let me know in the comments below your list of every film that you love, that you've been alive, so we can have a nice discussion down in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe if you're already, to join in this film culture community where we talk about films about each and every day, and we talk about the love for cinema and everything we have for our differences, the upbringings we had, and just everything we love about cinema as a whole. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.